We're going to start with some video.
We exist for one simple reason: to build technology that complements what traders do. Harnessing the power of people and technology so traders everywhere can do what it takes to succeed. Faster, smarter, with greater insight to speed read the market and expertly navigate the regulatory map, we build the most powerful platforms in trading and connectivity. We are ITIVITI. Capture tomorrow.
So good morning, and thank you for coming to our talk. My name is Lisa Wells. I work for Zilla Labs, running product marketing, and this is my friend and customer, Antoine Moreau. He is SVP and Head of Infrastructure Services at ITIVITI. And before we get started, I want to ask you all a personal question about your relationship with failure. How many people are like me, are totally afraid to fail? Like, it messes you up. Raise your hand if you're just not okay with it. And then there's the maybe a little more sane way of failure is just a part of life. It's just what happens. It's how you learn. That's natural. It's okay. How many people are good with that? Pretty evenly split. Nice. Well, in some business situations, the cost is too high and the business impact is just too much to fail. And that's the situation ITIVITI was in as they wanted to transition from a very painful manual deployment process, thousands of times a month, to something a little bit better. And what they ended up with was something fully automated, driven by Slack, and a team that was a lot happier being able to go home and rest easy at night. So another question, who here has heard of ITIVITI? Wow, okay, don't all yell at once. How about you, Link? Okay, so both companies, they merged in 2018. Both companies were leading providers of securities trading platforms. So they sell to investment companies who need to execute trades. For example, when you want to buy or sell a stock, that company would use ITIVITI's platform to trade. So these trades don't go through, that's really not good, mission critical. ITIVITI itself is actually a software company, not a reluctant software company. Their business is software. So they have 1,000 employees all over the world, but 400 of them are in development alone. 400 developers out of 1,000, plus another 250 on top of that in operations and client services. Which is a good thing because they have more than 1,650 clients, all with their own individual platform. Also good that they have more than 30 years of experience to make that move smoothly. So how many people know Zilla Labs, my company? Okay, a few more. I guess that's good for our marketing department. We will orchestrate your end-to-end DevOps tool chain if you have a complex pipeline. That's really what we excel at, release orchestration and deployment automation. And if you know the periodic table of DevOps, there are a lot of tools out there, and they all have to work together. You have to do the right things in the right order, make sure the right processes are followed, especially in mission critical and regulated environments. And you want to be able to report on that automatically without digging through log files. And really, you want to do all of this without scripting. So we are leaders in our Forrester and Gartner top right reports in the quadrants for release orchestration and deployment automation. And Antoine's going to tell you a little bit about the deployment automation side. So ITIVITI met Zilla Labs in 2015 at a DevOps day in Paris, just as they were starting out their DevOps journey. And he was there. I wasn't. So he's going to take it from here.
Thank you, Lisa. So we've talked about ITIVITI, but in this talk, I'm going to talk especially about the group of people that are in the client services. So software engineers, implementation engineers, support engineers, not exactly the engineering department. These 250 people are the ones servicing our managed clients. They're the one delivering an infrastructure that works 24/6, that has to route millions of orders every day. So it is pretty important that we don't fail, as we said just before. So why is failing not an option? Failing is not an option for multiple reasons, and I've seen around the room that we all feel differently about this. But for my clients, if for some reason they cannot route orders on behalf of their own clients, their clients will take their trading away for at least the rest of the day. So those are tangible financial losses. And in some cases, we can fix it. In some other cases, we just cannot fix it because the deployment was so massive. The changes were, database schematic changes, you just cannot roll back. In such cases, if it's really impacting our clients, it could have regulatory consequences. So as a vendor, I'm not regulated, but my clients are regulated. So if a regulator comes to them, I could have some impact for me in the way I operate, in the way I service them. So it really, really is not an option to fail. So in 2015, before we started our DevOps initiative, we already were at 98% success rate in deployments. It's pretty good, but it's not enough. Those 2% are the ones that were creating problems. We were also spending about an average 30 minutes on any given change. It's not so bad, but the most complex changes were actually taking hours. Hundreds of steps, hours. So the flight risk of any of those kind of change was pretty high. And before we started our DevOps journey, we already had some tools used by our engineering department that were DevOps compatible, like Ansible or Jenkins, but they were not used by the client services at all. So 2015 is here, and we start seeing that we will have problems when it comes to scalability, when it comes to, we were at the end of the road of what we can do with just manual processes. So we started to go to conferences like this one today across Europe. And at some point we ended up in the DevOps days in Paris. As it was mentioned by Lise, this is where we met with Zilla Labs for the first time. And this is when we, really sat down and said, okay, we have to fix problems. Some vendors are outside, some tools are open source. So we really need to do something. So why did we want to do DevOps? Well, some people wanted to do DevOps back then because it was trendy, and they were happy to put that on their resume. That was not really the problem I wanted to solve. I'm happy to have new talents coming, but we had actual real problems. One of the first problems we had is that our environments were not under source control. So our developers were using source control, Jenkins, Git, Gerrit, those kind of things, but our platforms were not. So every time an implementation engineer was doing a change, he had to document that change so that he was capable of handing it over to the production team in the same order. So if you change this in that order, you want to make sure it's replicated in the same way in production, otherwise the results might differ. So what was bound to happen happened. We had dev UAT in production environment that were not looking alike. Because you test something in UAT, you move it to production, you think it's going to work, it's not working. Because actually the person before you did something in UAT and never moved it to production. So you have inconsistency. We had other issues. It was very tedious work, and also we had a very strong dependency on our production team. Production team primarily operated in production, as per the title. But we also needed them to deliver in UAT. But if they were already busy doing things in production, we had to wait. So projects were delayed. Projects were behind. We had bottlenecks. So those are the main reasons why we wanted to completely review our delivery pipeline and the way we operate in client services. Obviously, new projects, new operations, a few challenges. Challenges that you can expect. We had no tools, even if we had some internally, as I said, but we had no tools within the client services department. Obviously, we had no resources. Resources don't stick around like this. We had no infrastructure to host this new solution, this new stack. We obviously had some people fearing for the position, because if you go to the production team and you tell them, I'm going to automate everything that is about delivering to production, they tell you, this is exactly my job. So I'm not sure about this initiative. I don't feel comfortable with it. And the one I actually did not expect is that my clients were not really for this change. We went to them and we said, we're going to change the way we operate. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it more robust. They were telling us, well, you know what? You fail once or twice a year and then you fix it quite rapidly. So, all in all, I'm not happy on that day, but overall I'm fine. I'd rather you spend your time developing new functionality for me. Things that bring value to my business, to my own clients. So we had those challenges, and we had the luxury, I would say, to have our top management that really understood that we had no choice. We had to make this change. Otherwise, we would basically prevent our company to further grow, or at least to sustain this rate of growth. 2015, and we worked, whiteboards, paperworks, a lot of things, and we end up with this stack. So through the DevOps journey, every step we were taking, we were like, do I want to buy or do I want to build? You know, there is no point in building something that was already built out elsewhere. Some people's already solved those problems. I have the same problem. Let's, you know, meet those guys. And in other cases, this is super specific to me. I have to build it. I have no other choice. So we end up with this mixed solution with some open source tools, some tools from the industry, from Zilla Labs, and some things we built. The first centric piece that you can see here is called UL Clone. It's the things that we developed. So it will interconnect through our Git repository. It will connect to our production backups databases so that we can grab everything that is not under source control. And the purpose of this tool is to create in a few minutes an exact replica of a client production environment. So the implementation engineer can go download, click on a few buttons. In a few minutes, they can go operate their changes, test the changes locally. Once they're happy with the changes, they can push them into the Git and Gerrit solution. When this is done, we're leveraging Gerrit for peer review, obviously. We're also leveraging Gerrit and Jenkins for some automated checks, some code quality checks, some security checks, because I don't want some clever guy that was just fired to inject system.exit in my Java code that will trigger at some point in time. So we have a few of those things. Once everything is done, we have Jenkins that triggers a job, build the jar file, which is basically the platform as a whole. It contains the jar file, it contains the configuration, and moves it to the DevOps platform from Zilla Labs. Once this is done, it overall takes 3-4 minutes. Once it is in the platform, anyone in the company can say, okay, I want this package and I want to deploy it into the dev environment, and it will be automated, it will go there. Same for UET. Only difference with production, only production engineer can decide to deploy something into production because we have best practices and other things. So this is our solution stack that we built over the years, and this is how it looks now. As you can see in the middle, there is Slack. I didn't mention Slack just yet, and it is in the title of the conference, so it will get there in a few slides, don't worry. But first, what we provide to our clients are bespoke solutions. They're hosted by us, managed by us, but they're bespoke. It's not a SaaS solution. So we need some flexibility through the entire chain, and we need also flexibility during our deployments. So one of the reasons we chose Zilla Labs back then is that, first of all, the UI is quite comprehensive. It's quite easy to get in. You don't have real onboarding time for the new joiners or people in the organization. And also, it was enabling us to be able to keep our best practices from production engineers. So within the tool, our production engineers are building our rules. If I want to deliver a change in UET, I will do it in this way. If I want to change production, if I want to deliver a change in production, I will do it in that way. So those are the things that we like. And we also are capable of injecting our own scripts. The famous Ghostbuster, for example, that you can see on the screen if it's big enough. Those are the things that we like. And also, we trust our people, we trust our engineers. So they know what they do, and if they decide that they have to skip one step, because this step is not making sense for this very delivery, they just go right-click and skip this step. So, we save time, we save space, everyone's happy. So that is how we deploy. So what about automation? Automation is key. People don't like to do the same thing twice, or at least 3 times, and this is where Slack kicks in. So we were using Slack already for instant messaging purposes in our company. And Slack has open APIs, and we have people that are good developers, so we started to develop in JavaScript different bots. And the one that I'm using the most in our DevOps initiative is the deploy bot. So the deploy bot is connected to the entire stack. It's connected to our KYC, it's connected to Jenkins, it's connected to Git, it's connected to Zilla Labs, it's connected everywhere. And from a single command, you can say, okay, I want to schedule this change. I've just pushed it into Git, and I'm happy. I want to schedule it, but in 10 days. You go there, you say, I want to schedule this. You put the commit, you take the commit ID, put it in here, give the platform name, and it will schedule it. It will create all the Jira tickets with the proper template, with the proper information level, proper time, everything you need, creates the ticket and you're done. You can move on to something else. You don't have to think about it again. You want to restart the platform. You just say, notify client, notify restart, and you just pick the platform name. And it will go into the QIC tool. It will say, okay, this is this client, those are the contacts. I'll send out an email saying, I will restart the platform in 5 minutes. So the engineer doesn't have to go and see, oh, who should I send the email to, and how should I do this, and who should I notify? And we have many, many other things. I mean, I hope it's pretty self-explanatory, the rest, and if you have more questions, we can take it offline, but this is how we're solving automation. And the good thing is that we're changing this bot on a weekly basis. We're injecting new features, new codes on a weekly basis because it's JavaScript, it's easy, many people can collaborate. So this is the stack that we started to build 4 years ago. What are the outcomes of this initiative at ITIVITI? Well, I'm happy. And it's good because we achieved what we wanted. We went from 98% to 100%. So that is quite solid. I mentioned that we had some bottlenecks at the production team. And as you can see, we've more than doubled the number of change we deliver in UAT every month since we changed our way to deliver. And we didn't double the number of platform. Even if my sales wanted to, we didn't do it. So we also solved our scalability problem. Because over the last 4 years, the headcount in the production team only was increased by 1. So the scalability issue was solved. Obviously, it's faster. It's only 5 minutes now. It was half an hour before. But we also had a few unexpected good things out of this. We increased our traceability. Now that we have this entire stack leveraging things that are documented, Git, Jira, everything is documented from start to beginning, start to end. So if a client comes and says, why did you do this on this very date? Well, we have the entire stack. We have no problem. And another very good thing is that now I can talk with my engineering department, and not just about Dungeons and Dragons or ping pong. We're using the same tools. We're using Jenkins, they're using Jenkins. We're using Gerrit, they're using Gerrit. So now those initiatives, when they come with new best practice, they go to an event like this, oh, I've seen this new tool, then we're sharing this, and they're also sharing the costs, which is not so bad. So this is what we've done. So what's coming next? The first thing I want to do, and I already have a beta running, I want to expose this entire stack to my clients. I want my clients to have an extranet, they can log in, and they can see all the commits we've done, all the packages we built for them, and they decide when they deploy them into UAT. To start with. Let's be conservative. The reason is that we're spending a lot of time coordinating with our clients, saying, when do you want to test this functionality? Oh, I need to talk to this team, and I need to do that team. We have no added value in this process. So I want them to take over this process and deliver themselves. Probably like everyone, I want to do more testing. I want to do more automation tests, especially when it comes to integration. In my business, a lot of things are interconnected, so integration tests are important. I want to start the journey of containers. We have not started that journey yet, and I want to move our infrastructure to an infrastructure as a service. So it will be a challenge because we're not stateless, we're not microservice. So I need a lot more conferences before I can start that one, I think. And the last one is that when we design the solution, we design it in a monolithic approach. We looked at how can I handle this platform, rather than how can I handle all my platforms at once if I want to do the same change. So this is the one that we have to address. If I want to do massive deployments for a simple change across my environment, how can I do it easily? So this is what I want to do next. But what did I learn through the process? Well, I learned a few things. The first one is don't listen to your clients. If I did listen to my clients, I would not be there. My company would not be growing still at the same rate, probably. I hope no clients are in the room, by the way. Otherwise, I'll buy you a beer. It'll be nice. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier, we really spend a lot of time thinking about what is that we want to solve, but really want to solve, not just being fancy. And I think it was really adamant in our success. Any major change, you have people relented, as mentioned. So one of our success also is that we clearly identified our champions in the teams that were very reluctant. We took this one guy, he helped us, he started to move, he understood that we don't want to replace him, we want to actually give him more value. We want him to review the content of what he's delivering rather than reviewing how he's going to deliver it. And that really helped us forward. Another thing that I learned is that we got lucky, and I hope you will get lucky in your business. Reason being is that when we started this in 2015, we didn't really know yet that on the 3rd of January 2018, a major new regulation would kick in finance, which is called MiFID II. This regulation forced us to re-engineer, redevelop, upgrade every single client we had. If we didn't have this solution back then, we would not have made it. It was just impossible. Too many changes. Already with this tool, it was challenging, but without, we would have been crushed. So try to look ahead. What's the new regulation coming in? What's the landscape? How the landscape is going to change in the next year or two that will force your organization to change and evolve. Otherwise, you might be dead already. And the last thing I learned is, we were very, as I mentioned on the previous slide, we really have been monolithic. So when you do those initiatives, you just try to have someone that from the outside and try to challenge, say, oh, but why didn't you think about this feature? That probably would have saved me some time for a few months to come. Thank you. That was it. I think now it's question time if anyone has any.
Anyone have any questions?
Oh, come on, it wasn't that good.
Yeah, smart remarks. All right, I'll throw one. So Antoine, you mentioned that you did not listen to your clients and you met with some resistance. How did you overcome that resistance?
Through pains and tears, mainly. So the clients were against the change, as I mentioned, because they didn't see the value in this, but also because they didn't. I'm working with banks and brokers, and they, source control, Git, Gerrit, those kind of things, it doesn't really make sense. So we had to explain the value it will create, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to lose flexibility, but you're going to gain because moving to source control, you lose in flexibility. You cannot fiddle as much as before." So we explained, and also we started with the clients that were keen, and we used the clients that were keen to move forward, and then we used them to advocate on our behalf to the clients that were reluctant. That was quite key. We have a strong community, so we talk to this client. Can you please talk to this client and tell him it's a good thing and it's not a waste of time? It's more or less how we did it, but pains and tears were involved.
So how about the development team? You're on the ops side and you have a large development team as well. How were they involved in the process, and was there resistance there?
No resistance. So they were involved initially with so they went through the moving to Git and Gerrit a few years before us, and they suffered. And so they really helped us to use those best practices and leverage their knowledge on how to operate, how to structure these things, how to build automated rules around this. So this is how we really use them. A few guys moved from engineering to our side because they were quite keen on working on this initiative. It's a couple of people. Now they moved back to engineering because we're mostly done. But now we also have hired directly DevOps engineers in client services.
Any other questions?
Just going to your stats in terms
Yeah.
of deployments went from 98% to 100%.
Yeah.
So every deployment now is successful within the organization.
So every deployment is successful in the organization. It doesn't mean that my clients are always happy about the deployment. The difference is before we were failing because everything was manual. We would miss a step that would jeopardize the deployment. Yeah. Nowadays, if it doesn't work in production, well, guess what? It doesn't work in UAT either. It was not properly tested or the specifications were probably not clear, but it's not because the deployment failed. The deployment doesn't fail. So that is what the stat is about.
So you mentioned more integration testing.
Yeah.
So the solution that you're actually deploying, you have an impact with upstream and downstream systems. That's why you need more integration testing.
Exactly. So we're collecting orders from clients, we're sending them to exchanges, to brokers, to back offices, to middle offices solutions. So sometimes you try to isolate a change, but actually has waterfall effect. Hence the more integration test.
The main issue now for you is the functional side of
Yes, the challenge is to build functional side. Any given client is going to route thousands of messages every day. So trying to isolate each and every unit test to make it viable is quite a challenge. We're working on this, trying to narrow down the smaller type of messages that we have that are unique. Is a bit of a challenge.
Did you experience reluctance and potential skill gaps in the traditional operations team, and how did you manage that?
I expected some problems, more than I had, because the implementation engineers, they basically are developers, so that was fine. The entire stack they were quite comfortable with. The people on the support side, they're more functional because they talk to traders, they talk to this type of group of clients. And actually, they really moved on to the thing because it empowered them. Because beforehand, they always had a dependency with implementation engineers. Oh, can you please go and do this change because you needed to log on SSH onto servers to deploy those changes and so on and so forth. Whereas now, everything, you have any tool you like, Git extension or whatever, so they can easily go, check out, make a small change in the CSV file to change A to B or C to D or whatever, commit it, build a package, and send it out. So we had to train them a bit, but they really wanted to get on because it gave them more flexibility and they were more autonomous in their day-to-day work. I hope it answers the question.
Thank you.
Now, totally different question, but I was wondering, did you make a financial business case for this change? And what are the components of it?
In regards to the costs? Well, I have the cost of Zilla Labs that I will be discussing after the talk, by the way. So I know how much I pay them, but besides that, we have not invested other money into it. So we have people resources. So we have one full-time employee that is here to maintain the stack and make it sustainable and upgrade it and make sure that it runs well. And that's one addition that we had. And it's the plus one you see in the production team. So because that person is nested in the production team. We do believe that they should hone best practices of how to deploy and how to deliver changes into production. So that would be this one full-time employee, so roughly $100K.
Do you also, did you have a higher productivity or something that you haven't paid back also for this investment? Or what's your opinion on this one?
So we have a higher productivity and we'll have higher client satisfaction. So assess the value of client satisfaction is really hard. We have higher productivity because we deliver the projects on time more often. So we don't drift as much as we were drifting before. So we can pile up more projects. So we're now more confident that if I commit to my client that I will start this project on this date, I will actually start that project on this date. So this is how it also increases client satisfaction. There was a question in the back earlier, but maybe the person was frustrated and left since they didn't pick it up. Anyone else? Yes?
Can you tell me more about the audit and compliance, the rules, how I didn't quite pick up. Something to do with Zilla Labs is supporting that, but do you specify certain rules?
So we have different rules. Rules are the first and foremost rule is only production engineer can deploy in production. So that is built in Zilla Labs. We have groups of users, and only them can click on the button and say move it to production. So that is the first one. We have other ones where we're saying if you're doing this change for this software, you actually must also this change for this software. So if I upgrade this component, we have compatibility metrics that are built in our different repositories and release centers and so on and so forth. So through the bot we have in Slack, we're always checking those compatibility metrics and best practices. If you're changing this parameter, you also have to increase this parameter, and all the time. And this we change if not on a daily basis, on a bi-weekly basis, because we'll always find new tweaks. Oh, this didn't work out. Why? And then boom, you had a new change. And this is what the DevOps engineer we have spent a lot of time on.
Do you have any plans to move from that only approved production engineer could click the button to something that's actually doesn't need that because you've got the confidence that certain things have been done? I mean, obviously, you need to have a lot of confidence in that. I wonder what you thought about that.
I'd like to, I cannot. I don't have, so as I said, my clients are regulated, and we're ISO 27001 and blah, blah, blah. So basically, we just cannot. We must have a strong parameter of who can access production, who can deliver change into production. So in some cases, I think we should do it, but I'm actually not allowed.
So
Any other question, or I'm over time?
if there are more
okay.
questions, we'll be in the speaker's corner this afternoon during that session. So come talk to us then.
Thank you.
Thanks.